Pesach now. We have Rav David Sperling, who's the Rosh Beit Midrash here. Was born in Sydney, Australia. Studied Yeshivat Mechon Meir for several years before studying for over a decade Yeshivat B'Teret Kohanim with Rabbi Shlomo Avner. Rav Sperling received rabbinic coordination with the Yeshivat of Israel, as well as from Rabbi Yehuda Henkin, and has taught halacha and nishmat for many, many years, as well as Yeshivat Mechon Meir, and published a wide range of public articles and journals and on the internet. And I know Rav Sperling doesn't really need any introduction, so
thank you. Shalom. Yofi. I have a whole. We're here for the next till 1:30. I have a whole thing of I can talk forever. But let's start with any questions you have, and then I'll get going. Yes, ma'am.
Induction.
Induction.
The induction burners.
Yofi. So there's a type of stovetops that they're called induction burners. They're made of a piece of glass, and they've got all this really cool stuff in them, which allows them that when you put a certain type of pot on them, made out of a certain type of metal, it turns on the heat and allows the heat to move through the thing that looks like a big sheet of glass into the pot and heats up the pot. Okay, that's how it works. Yes, we're good. That's what we're doing.
Yeah. But also, my question is like something touched it on Shabbat, it started beeping.
Oh, that I don't know about that. Some induction burners have like this special mechanism in them that allows them to check if you have bad thoughts, like if you are filled with hatred or guilt or anger or something. They just kind of beep, and they're really bad ones. Let's start with how to kosher induction thing for Pesach. It's really tricky. First of all, there's a on the simplest terms, it's a sheet of glass. That's not so simple halachically that it's considered a sheet of glass, because there's a machloket about whether tempered and hard glass is considered what the rabbis call glass.
But you're like comparing it to Pyrex and not.
Yeah, that's right. So the Rav Avadia Yosef Zatzal, he was a man who held that all glass is just considered glass. Whereas Rav Mordechai Eliyahu Zatzal, previous Sephardi chief rabbi of Israel, he said that only glass that's really glass, like when we were young, that when you washed it up in hot water it would explode, and if you put hot water in it, you had to put a spoon in it to stop it breaking. He said only that glass is glass, but all the other glass, that's not considered glass at all. Now, why do I just quote two Sephardi rabbis in this question? Because for Ashkenazim, it's really not a big question. Why? Because even if it's glass, we don't kosher glass for Pesach. Whether we kosher glass for the rest of the year is a machloket, but the Ramah writes very clearly that we don't kosher glass for Pesach. So it's either glass and we don't kosher it, or it's not glass and we don't kosher it.
Wait, what about the soaking of 3 days?
There is a way in time of great need that we can kosher glass, which is we can soak it for 3 days, changing the water every 24 hours, but there's no way you can do that to a top of an induction oven, because you would have it. Anyway, we're not going to do that. There's no way. One moment. So what does that leave us with? What do we do with the induction oven? What do we kosher for Pesach? We have a big problem. If you're Sephardi, it's not a big problem. You just clean it, and then it's good. If you're Ashkenazi, so it's not so simple. Some rabbis say you shouldn't use it at all, and you should buy a new type of, just like a burner, electric burner, put it in. And some rabbis, and in which case you would just clean it and just cover it and use it as more counter surface. Some rabbis say that you can clean it the best you can. Some of them talk about pouring boiling water over the glass when it's off. Anyway, the boiling water isn't going to help turn it on, because it only turns on when you put the right type of metal on it. You pour boiling water over it. And then they talk about, there are discs you can buy. Only certain metals turn it on. So to pass the heat through. So this really cool thing, you can buy these discs that sit on it, and they're made of that metal, and that allows you to put any old pot on that doesn't have the right metal. That's what they're designed for, these discs. So some rabbis say that you buy a set of those discs for Pesach, or you have those discs and you can kosher, they're pieces of metal, you can boil them up, and you cover the whole thing, and you leave a space for these discs and you put the discs down, and then you can use that. Now it's a covered surface. So let's it's cool idea, isn't it?
They
Yeah,
now
that's really
have
nice.
something that a company came out and made these silly pad or something like that. It's a thing that fits, you get it exactly to the.
Oh, Yofi. So and then they have the discs.
It's, the whole thing is a disc.
Oh,
The
yeah,
whole
fair.
thing is
And these are
one-
Jewish people who do this?
Yes.
They're amazing, those Jews. Look at that, that's amazing. So, exactly, so that's what I would advise you. If you're Sephardi, I would tell you just to clean it and clean it really, really well. And if it looks 100% clean, you don't have to do anything else. That's if you're Sephardi and you follow it up with Vadi Yosef, then you're fine. If you're Ashkenazi, I would advise you either to buy a new electric thing at Rami Levi, 150 shekels, and you're good, and just cover it and use it as a chopping board. Or to spend, do we have a price on the silly thing?
For the extra large size, 200 shekels plus 30 for shipping.
230 shekels. If you have that in your kitchen, and it's your kitchen, and you have one of these oven surfaces, and you're planning to make Pesach for a good Ad Mea Ve'esrim Shana, to 120 years, that sounds like a good investment. 230 shekels, you're going to use it for 10 years, that's 23 shekels a year. That sounds okay to me. That doesn't sound crazy, and that would be a good idea. I assume that they tell you also that you have to clean under it very well. They might even tell you, right? No, I'm telling you, you need to clean under it. You need to clean under it really well so that glass looks like it is really clean. It's and really clean. Next question, yes, ma'am.
So induction versus ceramic, like they look kind of like the same, but they're not the same.
No, there's another type of
What do you
oven type. There's another type of oven type which the induction needs a certain type of metal
Right.
to do it. The other type is just a big piece of glass that when you turn it on, the glass itself gets hot. You don't have to put any pot on it, it just gets hot, right? Same problem for Ashkenazim. You need to clean it and then you should cover it. That's easier to cover. You can put it doesn't need a special metal to cover it. But I take no, if it breaks because you did what I said, I didn't, that's not. Next question, we have any other questions about Pesach? Yes, ma'am.
Questions.
This is really good.
Okay, so our customs are, in my house, Ashkenazi, yes, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But now that my kids are now becoming too money and everything else, how do I have them in my home without?
Okay.
Who suffers? Us or them?
Okay, so this is the question. We have a tradition. Our household is, let's say, the question in this example was the question is the house is Ashkenazi, and we're having our children have married out. It happens in the best of families. One's become Sephardi, one's become Temani, one's become Hasidic. It's terrible now. No one's eating by anyone, so how do we have them in our house? It's a wonderful question. First of all, let's thank the good Lord that we have such a situation. It's absolutely amazing. Like my eldest son is married to a lovely girl, my daughter-in-law, and it's mother of my grandchildren. It's really cool. And she comes from a very well-established Sephardi family. And I always tell people when I give shiurim, whenever I quote the Ben Ish Chai, I say, I'm related to the Ben Ish Chai, right? So like, how does a Sperling get related to a Ben Ish Chai, right? It's in Iraq, how do you do that? So I'm related directly through my grandchildren, right? My grandchildren are related through their mother directly to being at my son's wedding. The cup, they said the bracha was the Kiddush cup that the Ben Ish Chai made Kiddush on every week. So that was like, yeah, that's like, and I sit there and think to myself, you know, did her grandmother and my son's grandmother, right, ever think that they would marry someone from, like, with people sitting there in Iraq, were they ever thinking that they married someone from Australia, Russia, Europe, Ukraine? Like, was that ever going to happen? And it's happened. This is a miracle of Kibbutz Galiyot, and the Kodesh Baruch Hu is bringing all these children together, and it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Of course, it'd be more wonderful if they all became Ashkenazim, but that's not going to happen. So what do we do? Okay, there are several different approaches, and everyone needs to find the approach that fits well in their house. In general, I believe that a person should be able to keep their minhagim in their house. It's your house, Baruch Hashem, and you should keep your minhagim. and your guests should fit themselves into your minhagim. That's in general the way halakha seems to view customs, that a person travels, the Gemara talks about the question of Erev Pesach, a person who travels from a place with one custom and goes to a place with another custom, they have to fit in. At the same time, they should make sure that they don't break their own customs. So what does that mean? When I visit a Sephardi house, I'm Ashkenazi, if you don't realize that, I'm Ashkenazi. When I visit a Sephardi house, so I don't expect them to stop making kitniot. I don't expect them to change put away all their glass dishes. I don't expect them to do that. I have to fit into there whilst keeping my own halacha. And so when a Sephardi comes to an Ashkenazi house, they should not expect me to cook rice for them. In general, that's the way you should do it. That's a standard halacha, okay? And someone who wanted to apply that strictly would say that might bring about a situation where you might not want to visit someone, right? Because if I want to apply that very strictly as an Ashkenazi to visit a Sephardi family, that's going to be difficult for me. Maybe everything they cooked has been cooked in vessels that just have kidney on it. My belief is certainly with families like this, if you're just doing for fun or whatever, that's something else. But where there's family, that itself is a halachic need. To bring families together is a halachic need. So when I have a halachic need, then I apply this rule that I just said leniently. So what does that mean? That means, for example, that when my son, who is Ashkenazi, goes to his parents-in-law who are Sephardi, they cook kitniot. He does not eat the kitniot, but he relies on the most lenient opinions about what is defined as kitniot, as eating food that's not kitniot, cooked in kitniot vessels, about the most lenient opinions. I sat down with him and said to him, okay, so we don't eat rice, but the most lenient opinion says that the pot that they cooked rice in 5 minutes ago, and they're now cooking a potato, because we're Ashkenazim, what else are we going to eat? You can eat the potato. Now, I want to tell you that's the lenient opinion. There is a much stricter opinions that say that you cannot eat non-kitniot food that was cooked in kitniot vessels, certainly if those vessels were cooked for kitniot in the last 24 hours. There is such opinions. A major Ashkenazi custom was to not eat non-kitniot products that were cooked in kitniot vessels, even if there was more than 24 hours. But in my opinion, in order to bring families together, we need to, one hand, keep our customs. Number two, not to expect our hosts to change their lives for us. And the result of that is I apply my customs, I keep my customs in the most lenient way. So, if you have an Ashkenazi house, I do not believe that you have to start eating rice. On the other hand, there is no issue at all for Ashkenazim to own kitniot, to serve Sephardim kitniot, and if we want to apply in the most lenient fashion, to do that in your vessels. So therefore, if you have Sephardi grandchildren, I can very well imagine that they would like some cornflakes. Cornflakes is kosher, Pesach to Sephardim. Wow! Let's all run to the mikveh, jump in and become Sephardim, right? Cornflake, right? It has to say kosher Pesach, but it's corn. Corn is kosher Pesach, right? So we don't eat cornflakes on Pesach, right? Is everyone here Ashkenazi? Yeah. So, no, it's something here is Sephardim. So Ashkenazi don't have.
We're left.
Yofi. So if you have your grandchildren coming and you know that they eat cornflakes on Pesach and you want to have something there for in the morning, I would buy them cornflakes and I would let them do that in your kalim, in your pots and pans, in your things, even hot kitniot, I would let them cook in your thing for their family in order to bring together. You shouldn't eat it, but they can. Right? So let's just summarize. What do we do when we have, Baruch Hashem, Kibbutz Galiyot, Jewish families come together from different customs? We thank the good Lord, we smile, and we're going to make it work. Number two, how are we going to do that? You're going to keep your custom. They're going to keep their custom. They're going to keep their customs in the most lenient way in order to be good guests. And you're going to be the most flexible you can in order not to change your custom, but be most flexible in order that your guests feel at home, especially with little children. Adults, they can survive, but little kids, if they want a rice cracker now, you need to give them a rice cracker. Next question. Do we have any more questions? So I'm going to. Yes, ma'am.
I've already done my Pesach shopping, and everything now says kidney oil. Almost everything.
Everything says kidney on it.
No, it says the Ochle kidney.
Ochle kidney on. Wow.
And so many things in the past that were okay, all of a sudden now are.
Ochle kidney on.
Yeah.
So I've got a few things to say about this. Number one, my first thing to say is that most Jews who keep kosher Pesach in Israel are Sfardim. Okay? So first of all, we shouldn't complain. Okay? We're we're the minority of there are actually more Ashkenazim in Israel now than Sfardim. Used to be there were more Sfardim. There are more Ashkenazim in Israel now than Sfardim. But that's because of Baruch Hashem, the immigration from the former Soviet Union. But the amount of Jews who actually care about food kosher for Pesach, Sfardim have the upper hand. Baruch Hashem. So we're the minority, we shouldn't complain. Number two, the labeling regulations for kidneyot needs serious overhaul. I've been speaking to two members of the government to try and do a judicial reform about labeling for kidneyot, but there seems to be a few demonstrations about it and people aren't interested. I'll get to one second. It's a good question. Yeah? I'll tell you why I say that. Because it's crazy. I bought last Pesach, a few Pesach or whatever it was, I bought a bag of shelled walnuts. Okay, now walnuts are not kidneyot. Shelled walnuts are raw, they're being shelled. It said on them, Ochle kidneyot bilvad. They're not treated, they're not baked, they're nothing. They employ little old men to break walnuts and put them in a bag. I called up the mashgiach. I said, what's going on? He said, in the same factory, we shell peanuts. Okay. Rav Feinstein says peanuts are not kidneyot. So there we go. We start. We just got a huge opinion that says don't even have kidneyot there. Next, everyone agrees that kidneyot that got mixed in with non-kidneyot by mistake, certainly before Pesach, before Pesach, is nullified. Thirdly, there are no peanuts in there. It's labeling gone wild.
Yes.
Wild.
Yeah.
Pardon?
It's like an allergy.
Like an allergy. So we are not allergic to kidneyot, right? We're not allergic. You're allowed to have, I keep kidneyot in my house. You're allowed to pick up a rice cracker that says kosher Pesach on Pesach and feed it to your Sephardi grandchild. Okay? There's no issue at all. It's like really no problem. So that's my second point. My first point was that, whatever. The second point is the labeling is crazy. Now what do we do about that? You could do two things, and I say this in all honesty, right? We need to change the system, but the system is like what you say, and I agree with you. More and more things are there just for that. I have a feeling in my stomach, I have no proof for this at all. I have a feeling it's just that a lot of rabbis who give the hekshers only have one stamp. And their stamp just says rabbi and then a long Sephardi name, and it says Ochle kidney on it. And it's like, that's all there. And I don't have any proof of it. What should we do about that? We have two choices. We can either be actively informed and make huge efforts to clarify, or we can use the fallback and just go with the reality. So what does that mean? If you have no idea what's going on in Israel, I have relatives, they came on Aliyah, it's hard for them to read Hebrew, the kashrut system here is crazy, they've got kids who only eat this extra and that. They just say, they go to a shop in a purely American neighborhood and they buy there all this stuff we got in Chutz La'aretz, and they only buy things that say no kidneyot. That's one option. One option is you could only buy things that say they have no kidney on it. Some things that just say kosher Pesach and they don't tell you if they have or they don't have. So then you have to, if it's from Tenuva and it doesn't say anything, it has no kidney on it. Okay? So that's one option. One option is you can throw your hands up in despair and say, okay, so I'll only buy the stuff and I get a limited day. The other is you can be proactive and you can clarify and you can use your common sense, you can read ingredients and you can call up mashgichim. But you have to have a bit of knowledge to that, and it takes time and it's a bit aggravating, and you're going to put down the phone after speaking to the walnut mashgiach and go and roll your eyes again, and then you'll eat the walnuts. Okay? I can't give you any other advice. I will add one extra point in that, and that was from Raquel's question. There's a major machloket in the question of kidneyot about kidneyot oils. There's another question about kidneyot that's changed form, but kidneyot oils. That is, if we take corn and we make corn oil or soy oil, is that oil considered, is it problematic in the question of kidneyot? Okay? Now why this question is really interesting is because if we take wheat and we mix it with water and we bake it, so we call that matzah. If we did it quick enough, we eat it on Pesach. Most Ashkenazim, if they took rice and made it into flour and added water and baked it, would not eat it on Pesach. That is, many of us treat kidneyot stricter than we treat chametz. Are you with me? Mm-hmm. If you took wheat and you somehow pressed it and got an oil from it, I have no idea if there's such a thing as wheat oil, but maybe there's a drop of something in there. Yet scientifically, do we have oil in wheat? We don't think so. But let's imagine if we managed to get oil from that, it could never rise. It would never become chametz. So based on that, there was a major trend in poskim who said that when you take kidneyot and you make it into oil, and as long as you made it in a place where the kidneyot was dry and you checked there was no chametz, that oil is kosher to Pesach. Which type of rabbi said that? Rav Kook Zitzal. Right? Big rabbis. Where I grew up in Australia, that was our minhag. It said in the kasher lists for Pesach, all vegetable oils, 100% vegetable oils are kosher to Pesach. And that's what we had, 100% kosher to Pesach vegetable oils. That's not the minhag here in Eretz Yisrael. The minhag here in Eretz Yisrael is really strict when it comes to kidneyot. When Rav Kook permitted sesame seed oil, he was screamed at by the rabbis of Yerushalayim, and they strongly objected to his ruling. Someone who wants to be lenient and use, pardon? Yeah, someone who wants to be lenient and use kidneyot oils has, certainly if it's your family tradition, if it's not your family tradition, you're on really strong ground. You're on really strong ground. If you hold like that, there is a whole lot of produce that is labeled as kidneyot, which is not kidneyot. For example, ice creams. Now, you really have to know mayonnaise, the puddings and yogurts and all that stuff. You really have to know what you're doing, because you really have to know that that's the ingredient that because of it they put on the label kidneyot. So you have to be able to read labels really well. I was in the shop and my family says, yeah, this is just kidneyot oil. I said, no, it's 100% hummus. That's hummus, right? So it's true, it has kidneyot oils in it. It's it, right? Kidneyot oil, it's it, right? It's added oil. It's oil. But you have to know what you're doing. If you know what you're doing, you know how to read labels, and you want to have kidneyot oils, you're on really strong ground. I don't want people to change their customs, but in my opinion, you have really strong grounds on who to rely. I will go one step further. There's an oil which is made out of a seed called rapeseed. Until the industrial era, they didn't make oil from it because it needs an industrial press to get the oil out of it. So it didn't exist in the time when the Gaonim made kidney oil. It didn't exist then. Number two, the rapeseed itself, no one eats it. It's not even food. The only thing you can get from it is oil, and it's an oil. So it's got three wonderful things going for it. It's called by the manufacturers canola oil. It's called canola oil because they're the company that made it.
Because they didn't want the word rape in it.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate name for a seed, isn't it? Right? It's
So they
something.
made it Canadian oil. That's
Canadian
what you know.
oil. So they made it into canola oil. Very good. In my opinion, and the opinion of many, many, many rabbis, that is really, really not kidney oil. And even if it is, so we've got everything I just told you about oils. The more so and the more so with this oil. Now, if you look to try and find canola oil that says on it kosher Pesach, you need to buy one that says kosher Pesach. To find one that says kosher Pesach and doesn't have the word kidney on it, good luck. There was a year when they had like that, but you call up like big rabbis, like big Ashkenazi rabbis, and you say to them, is canola kosher Pesach? Is it kidney oil? They say, no, it's not kidney oil. But when you go to the shop, the heksher says kidney oil, like on the walnuts, right? So it's a machloket. Someone wants to use that. Wow, they have on who to rely. Next, there's one step further, which is there's an ingredient that they put in chocolates and things like that, lecithin, right? It's even less. It's less. Everything is like eating it. I go further along it. I once asked my Rosh Hashiva Rav Shlomo Aviner about having that in chocolate. He said, yeah, it's fine. He said, yeah, but if a girl eats it, she'll probably have less chance of getting a good shidduch if people hear about it, right? It was only like a real social thing. He said, but now I see on chocolates, last Pesach I saw, le'ochlei lecithin. Like, there's this new halakhic category, which exists, like, who made that up? Who made up a category of people called ochlei lecithin? Like, none of our grandparents have a minhag about that. Our grandparents they never heard that word. It's a new thing, and we don't have a minhag. What they mean is, does your rabbi hold it's good or not? Not like lo ochlei kidney oil is part of which community you belong to. There's room to be lenient. With that, the Jewish people have a tradition. There's an Ari Kadosh. He said that we know, Chazal tell us that every part of our personality can be used to serve Hashem, and should be used to serve Hashem. So a person who has anger, they should use their anger to get really angry at the evil in the world. That should push them to go and make the world a better place. A person who has a Yetzer Hara, the Gemara says, for blood, they should become a shochet or a moil. Doctor. Person who has a Yetzer Hara for different things should use them in a permitted way. So the Ari Kadosh said that there are some people, it's hard to imagine, but there are some people who have a Yetzer Hara to be machmir, to be strict, and they should use it on Pesach. Pesach was designed to get out, to use that property. So if that's you can do it. Everything. I'm not coming to belittle customs. People who have customs and they don't eat this kidney or that kidney, or you don't have the know-how to make your way around the Israeli food industry and know what to do. A person, there is food that doesn't have kidney oil in it. It's called matzah, wine, eggs, and potatoes.
Oh, tomatoes.
Cucumbers, tomatoes. Yeah, but then you've got schnitzler on the top. Anyway, any other questions? Otherwise, I'll take it. Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Okay, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Just like you were talking about, not that we have such problems, but so for people, Hasidic people for whom this is a problem. So is this like so if you serve matzo balls, is like how?
Okay, so there's a minhag. There's a minhag in Hebrew called shuria. In Yiddish, it's called gebrochs. It's mentioned in the early sources. The minhag is that they don't bring into contact matzah or matzah products with liquids that could cause them to ferment. So what's the problem? They were worried that inside the matzah there might be a part that didn't bake properly, and you would have some raw flour, unbaked flour, unfully cooked flour, and if we put that in contact with water, that might become chametz. The truth is that this custom, this practice to be strict in Shuria Gebrochs, is hard to justify today in the reality we live in. Why? Because the Shulchan Aruch says, how thick can you make your matzah? The Shulchan Aruch says you can make your matzah up to a tefach. Tefach is this big. So your matzah can be like up to, let's say, strictly being 8 centimeters. Right? Like twice as thick as your average pita. Now, I know about this because more. Okay, I know about this because my son is married to the son. Yeah. So in their family, they make matzahs before Pesach, and they make soft matzahs, and he brings them. And I don't want to mention the word pita, but wow, that looks like that to me. Anyway, if you make them too thick, then there's a big chance that in the middle, you might really have something that's not cooked. And then, if you put that in contact with liquid, it might become chametz. Our matzot, by and large, are really thin, like crackers, like really thin. And the chance that there's something in there that was not cooked, that was not baked, is zero. It's like there's no chance that there could be inside a piece of matzah a piece of flour. Therefore, someone who does not have this custom should not take it on. I understand. There are customs I'll tell you that a person who's growing religiously should take on. Someone who does not have this custom should not take it on unless you are part of a community that follows this practice. Many of the Hasidim follow this practice. So if any of you become a Belz or Ger or Chabad Hasid, then there's room to talk about taking it on. But until then, it's not a custom you should take on. Now, having said that, what about the people who do? The reason I stress this is because I see again and again and again ads for hotels and Pesach functions and restaurants that say no kitniot and no shuria, no food, right? It's got like no anything, but that's a very small segment of the community. It shouldn't be like a main thing. You see that and you start worrying, well, maybe I should keep that chumrah. No, a person wants chumrah for Pesach and give you lots more you should do before Shmorah, right? Lots and lots more chumrah that you should do before that. It's really not what you should be doing. What do you do if you do keep it? So you should know that every community keeps it in a different way. Theoretically, if you dip your matzah in your soup and you eat it before 18 minutes, you should be fine, right? Yeah? But they don't know, no one that keeps Shmurah will do that. No one keeps Gebrochs is going to dip their matzah in a soup and eat it quickly before 18 minutes. They don't do that. However, there's a machloket about what type of things they will put on their matzah. Some of them won't put anything that's got any liquid on their matzah at all, including chawoset. And some of them will put everything except for water, everything that doesn't have water on it. So some will spread jam on them. As a young boy, I remember being on a Pesach picnic and it started to rain and all the Chabadniks couldn't eat. It was like terrible. Like it was raining and so they had this sandwich. It was terrible. Has anyone been to a Chabad Seder? They eat the matzahs in bags or back and then brush themselves off and then change because they don't want any crumbs left.
And they don't pick up their silverware off the floor.
That's a different thing, yeah. But yeah. So now if you're asking me, if someone who keeps their custom wants to come to your house who doesn't keep that custom, you're going to have to sit down and talk to them before and figure out what they're going to eat and what they're not going to eat and try and come to some thing. Some people are really strict. If you're really hard line, you won't eat food that was cooked in a vessel that had matzah soup in it, right? And so Chabad hold like that. Yeah, I don't think you should invite them.
For a year.
Yeah, for a year. I'm joking. You should certainly invite them. You have to figure out what they're going to eat. Okay? you should be aware that you don't keep that custom, right? No. So they should be aware that you're keeping normative Judaism and they're the ones with the problem. Yeah. Okay, yes ma'am. What last is she has asked me?
Teas, decaf and regular teas with a texture for Pesach.
Maybe we saw a lot of teas that had kidney, it's the same question.
Herbal teas or
It could be the herbal teas are kidney because there's a lot of herbs that we actually define as kidney hot. Mustard is kidney hot.
Yeah, but they say 100% peppermint. It used to be that it had a mahadran yachshir for Pesach. Now they've taken it off. It just
You have to call the mashgiach. If you're talking about a peppermint tea and it now says for kidney hot, there should be a phenomenon. You should call the company that makes it.
no.
Or to the
It
mashgiach.
doesn't say kosher Pesach anymore. They just don't produce it as for kosher Pesach at all.
No. I can't tell you that something that doesn't say kosher Pesach only is kosher Pesach. Okay, that is beyond my ability to tell. It could very well be that it is kosher Pesach. Right? It could very well be that they've just decided not to pay for a heksha, or right? It could very well be that it's kosher Pesach. I don't want to say it's not, but I wouldn't bet on it. Who knows? Who knows? And so we don't eat on Pesach. Yes, ma'am.
Keeping one day out of Israel and like Havdalah and times of the week.
Okay, 1 or 2 days. We know that in the land of Israel we keep 1 day Yom Tov, and outside Israel, Gemara tells us that we should follow the customs of Am Yisrael and keep 2 days Yom Tov, the second day being D'Rabbanan. Someone from Chutz Haaretz who's come to Israel, someone, pardon?
Someone from Israel who's going to Chutz La'aretz.
Okay, someone who's from Israel who's going to Chutz Haaretz on Shlichut to do a big mitzvah there, or for Kibbud Ava'im. Someone who's just going to Chutz Haaretz for holiday, they need to speak to their rabbi in all seriousness. Someone who's just going to Chutz Haaretz just for a holiday, doing Pesach on a cruise or going to Greece or something, needs to speak to the rabbi about whether that's permitted. If I'm the rabbi you're speaking to, I'm going to tell you the answer is no. Okay? But someone who's going to Chutz Haaretz for a mitzvah, for their family, Kibbud Ava'im, Taman Seder, to help the Jews in the Ukraine, they're wonderful things to do. Then you've got the question involved. Wow, I got really quiet there after I said that, didn't I? Wow, really good. Yes, yeah. I feel good to say that. I see, all those ads, Mahadrin, no Shuri, no Gablochs, no Kidneyot, Mahadrin Minahadrin, Pesach in Italy. No, it's not Mahadrin. It's not. It's because she gets over the bar of kosher. For Jews in Israel to go, and a Jew from America, if you're getting on a plane already, come to Israel. Right? It's not Mahadran. There's no way that there can be such a thing as Mahadran for encouraging Jews to go out from the land of Israel to spend Pesach outside Israel. It just can't be. It just can't. It can't be. Okay, 1 or 2 days. 1 minute? 1 or 2 days. There's a machloket. There is an opinion that you go by where your body is, and such is the opinion of the Chacham Tzvi. I'm told that large segments of Chabad and the students of Rav Soloveitchik follow that. And if your body happens to be in Chutz Haaretz during Pesach, you keep 2 days. And vice versa, if your body happens to be in Israel, you keep 1 day. That's a minority opinion. The Shulchan Aruch does not rule like that. But if your rabbi or your family holds like that, there is such an opinion. Okay, that's the Chacham Tzvi, and I'm told that large sections of Chabad and the students of Rav Soloveitchik hold that opinion. It goes by where your body is. But the Shulchan Aruch doesn't say that. The Shulchan Aruch says that if you are in Israeli, you live in Israel, and you're visiting Chutz Haaretz, and your intention is to return to the Holy Land, please God, then you keep 1 day, but you can't do any malacha on the second day. You can't make machloket, can't do any malacha. And the major halacha is like the Magen Avraham, that you can't even do malacha in private. Even with all the blinds down, you can't do malacha. So, you keep 1 day, you don't do any malacha for 2 days, and now you start getting tricky. When everyone goes off to shul for second night davening, you sneak into the kitchen, you take a cup, and you say Havdalah over a cup of wine and grape juice. Then, when you finished Havdalah, you can daven weekday. If you're a Mar of davening, you daven Mar, it's Chol Moed. You can go to shul and you daven your davening, not their davening. You should be careful not to be the chazan and not get a call up. I took care of that. I asked them that no, my students at Nishmat should ever be the chazan and ever get a call up, and that way that'll be fine with that question. Then you consider the second Seder, and if people are expecting you, you should sit the second Seder. You have to make sure you don't say any brachot that you don't need to. So you can't say al achilat maror, achilat matzah. You should, before you put any food in your mouth, you should say the bracha yourself. So before you drink the wine, you say brei gofen. And before you eat matzah, you should say hamotzi. And you don't say the bracha on maror, and you don't say the bracha on halal. I mean, there's no bracha on halal in the Seder anyway. My magnus open, that's going to make my name in the rabbinic world, which I haven't finished writing yet, is if you're in that situation, are you allowed to get a prize for stealing the afikomen on second night? You should leave that to the other people then. In the morning, you daven weekday. At the end, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to make Havdalah. They're going to do the 8th night. You're going to daven whole weekday. You're not going to eat chametz. If you're a man, you're going to put on tefillin in the morning privately, and then you can go to shul, and you have to daven completely weekday. We helped you?
There's no rabbis that say you can do melacha.
There is, I don't want to lie to you, there are rabbis who say everything. What I just told you was mainstream paskening of the Shulchan Aruch based on the Magen Avraham. There's an opinion of if you're in a city where there are absolutely no Jews, if you're in the desert, you're in a city where there are absolutely no Jews, I don't know how you got there, why are you there? But if you're in a city where there's no Jews, or like something like that, then you can do melacha. There is an opinion that says you can do melacha in private, it's a taz, but the Mishnah Board doesn't rule like that. What I told you is standard halacha. Someone who's got a real... Yes, fine, also.
But you said nobody can be around for Havdalah. Let's say you were in that situation with
You can make Havdalah quietly. When they pick up the cup to say Kiddush, you can say under your breath Havdalah. You don't have to, they all know that you're Israeli. You don't have to hide, it's like a secret agent, right? But you can't do Malacha. I give you full permission to ask another rabbi. You can go and ask her, and if you get a different answer, you come and tell me.
No, my question was more about Havdalah rather than the rest.
Yeah, you should make Havdalah. But it's just over a cup, right? It's easy. There's no wine, there's no flame, and there's no... Yofi. Yeah, last question.
Can Ashkenazim eat that matzah that your son brings back?
Oh, that's a very good question. Can Ashkenazim eat soft matzot? So, as opposed to kidney oil, which we have a real Ashkenazi tradition about, we don't actually have a real tradition about soft or hard matzah. Why not? Because until 200 years ago, Ashkenazim also ate soft matzah. In the Gemara, it's very clear that Ashkenazim are eating soft matzah. The hard, crunchy, thin matzah is a new phenomenon. It's a phenomenon of the Jewish people getting strict and wanting to make their matzahs very quick and without any doubt that there would be any chametz in them. So we started making them very thin so they could cook really quickly. So we don't actually have a real tradition about this. Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach Zatzal, he believed that the Ashkenazim don't eat soft matzah and you should refrain from eating soft matzot. In my opinion, and I've heard this from other rabbis, Ashkenazi rabbis, a person who wants to eat Ashkenazi, who wants to eat soft matzah, no problem. Because it's really just a new custom.
Especially if you have Sephardi grandchildren.
Yeah, if you have Sephardi grandchildren. At my table, my son brings them, he bakes them with his family, and he brings them, and he has them. I myself don't eat them. My rabbis, I just finish on that matter. There's a big machloket which we're not going to get into now about how much matzah you have to eat, right? And everyone, all of us know that you have to eat more, a lot, tons, right? So Rav Mordechai Eliyahu Zatzal, the previous Spanish chief rabbi of Israel, he holds that a kazayit of matzah is roughly the size of one piece of machine matzah. Therefore, when you eat at the beginning of the Seder, you eat hamotzi and alachila matzah, you should eat 2 kazetim. So he holds you should eat 2 slices of matzah, and then for korech, 1 slice of matzah, and then for afikomen, if you can, 2 slices of matzah. So I was once talking to him, and I said, Arav, that's a lot of matzah. I said, the Gemara says you can put 2 kazetim in your mouth at the same time and swallow them. You can't put 2 pieces of matzah. I said, that's a lot of matzah. So then Rav Mordechai Zatzal looked at me and he said, tell me, are you going on a picnic on Chol Hamoed? And I was just shocked. I didn't know what to say. I was speaking to one of the greatest rabbis of the Jewish people, the chief rabbi of the state of Israel, Talmid Chacham Atzum. I'm asking him a halachic question, and he's asking me about my Chol Hamoed plans, about whether I'm going to Gan Saka. Like, I had no idea what was going on. I said, yeah, I guess so. What? Why? He said, you watch. You make a picnic, and you'll eat a piece, another piece, another piece. You'll eat tons of matzah. It's only on Seder night when it's a mitzvah, suddenly your Yetzer Hara yells out, diet! I can't eat so much. He said, it's all your Yetzer Hara, you can eat a lot, just like you do on the picnic. So I went away. I was still a little bit troubled by this, until my son married into Mishpachat Eliyahu. My daughter-in-law is an Eliyahu. And my son came the second year. The first year he went to their family. The second year he came and he bought soft matzah. I said, "Vus is dus," because whenever I see something Sephardi, I say my Ashkenazi Yiddish comes out. Vus is dus. I said, "Dus is pita, right?" I said, "What is this? Chametz?" He said, "No, this is matzah from Mishpachat Eliyahu." Oh, so then I shut up. Right? This is Kodesh Kodeshim. This is great. And then my son explained to me, and I totally understood. If you're eating soft matzah, a kazayit is really easy to eat.
Yes.
It's much smaller. There's much more volume in it, and so it's not actually doesn't actually taste like pita, but it's much heavier and stuff. But it's much easier. It's a much smaller volume, and that's why when Rav Mordechai Zatzal said that a kazayit is the size of a piece of matzah, he never imagined that someone would actually be eating that dry machine matzah on Saturday night. He knew that people should be eating the summary.
Can you put those in the oven, those matzahs that your son brings? Can you put it in the oven to warm up to, like, people put them in the freezer?
My son brings them in the freezer, and he brings them in the freezer, and then at a certain point in the Seder, he takes them out of the freezer and puts them on top of the top of whatever on the platter.
Can you put them in the oven?
On Yom Tov, yes, you can put them. You have to know if you have to have an oven that's openable on Shabbos and Yom Tov.
Okay.
If your oven has a Shabbos Yom Tov switch that allows it to open, yes, on Yom Tov, the person to cook. Not only that, you could actually stop the Seder.
And make matzah.
You could make matzahs and you could bake them, and I have a friend who does that. It only takes 18 minutes, and he stops the Seder, and just before they get to the meal, just before they get to Rabban Gamliel says matzah zu al shuman. No, maybe at the beginning, halach mamia. He stops, and they all go down to his basement, and they actually you have to have nerves of steel, because if it's like chametz gamur, you finish. You have to, but he does it. And in the time of the Gemara, people did that. Yes, you can put them in the oven. If it falls on Shabbos, if Yom Tov falls on Shabbos, then you go. Then you got a different question. Ladies, we should all merit to have a wonderful Pesach. Thank you very much.